I see that we have some guests today, which is great. We have Mr. Barandika, our athletic director, and Ms. Shaler from Food Services, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Should we start with the school nutrition policy then? Which is 8505. Okay. So I don't believe this was in the most recent update, correct, Dr. Chanley? This is
Can
just
anyone hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you
can?
now. Yes. Yes.
You can hear me
I
too,
cannot
right?
hear anyone.
Oh, you might have something clicked. Can you hear us at all?
You might have to join like with audio.
If you can hear me, click under where it says mute. When you see the mute, there's a little down arrow. If you click on that, make sure that you click on one of the areas that they say microphones. You should be able to click on something there so it picks up your audio. Maybe nothing is clicked.
I can't hear you though, then that was good information
Oh,
for everyone else.
if she can hear me, then she can't hear me, right?
Ms. Shallow, are you able to hear us now or no?
Not here.
We hear you. Oh, she can't hear me saying we hear you.
I think she just didn't join her computer audio. No?
Do you want to do a different policy?
Okay. All right.
Well, the answer to your question first, Ms. Alvarez, is this was the most updated one that we received.
Okay, but I know we had postponed it a couple of months, right?
Because we were
Because
waiting for Shasta.
I don't have a little
Yes.
blurb on it. So
Right.
we're going to have to find out what
We
the
did
update
not-
is.
That's correct. My understanding is we didn't get another blurb on it, but because we kept on pushing it, we decided to
Yeah.
bring it.
Right.
That's what it was.
I had requested like back in the summer
Yes,
for us to look at it.
Oh, okay.
correct.
All
Um,
right.
So we were waiting. You know what it is? We were
Since we're
trying to
waiting
be-
for her, we have we have Mr. Barandika here. Are you? So what policy are we discussing? Oh, here we go. 9163.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Spectator code for
Yes.
interscholastic events.
Okay, we'll start with that one then. I can read you what the update says about it, and then
Sure.
Mr. Barandika can chime in. So it says New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association is requiring every member school to adopt a spectator code of conduct policy during the 2024-2025 school year, as per an NJSIAA guidance dated May 8th, 2024. NJSIAA has indicated member schools must adopt a policy that requires immediate removal of a person from the event and school premises for violating the policy. Minimum disciplinary measures, including suspension of a person from attending future interscholastic events for violating the policy, a required educational component for violators, parent acknowledgement of receipt of a copy of the policy, and code of conduct provisions of the policy to be posted at all venues hosting competition to the extent possible. The required policy shall also include an appeal process. So I'm not going to read all this. There's a lot to read here, but it seems like we have three options to choose from in terms of developing this policy or updating it. So option one is the option provides the school district the ability to impose disciplinary action to a person that is found to have exhibited unsportsmanlike conduct at an away interscholastic event, to include the suspension from attending a subsequent home event. Okay, that's one. Option two, the option addresses the situation when a person is immediately removed from the interscholastic event for an activity and the suspension from subsequent home events cannot be imposed because the suspension exceeds the remaining home events for the activity or season. This option indicates any remaining suspension shall carry over into the first home event of the activity in the next school year. And the final option is the option permits the principal or designee to suspend a person from attending home interscholastic events in excess of the suspension provisions in this policy if the person violates this policy multiple times as determined by the board within a fixed period of time to be determined by the board. Okay, is there a preference?
Yeah, so what I did is as a group of athletic directors through the GMC, which is our conference, we had already somewhat prepared, for this to come out from Strauss Esme, as the state, did tell us that it was something that was coming out in the policy guide that I sent back out. If you can see everything that's in yellow. Basically, what we did is I sat with Dr. Higgins as well and kind of looked through this. The policy that came from Strauss Esme didn't really have specific. I'm hearing some echo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Didn't really have specific offenses outlined through the documentation that we received through the NJSIA, as well as through the discussions that we had through the GMC. We had specific, what do you call them, offenses. So if you look at the document under disciplinary framework number 3, you'll be able to see that we have clearly delineated offenses. If it happens the first time, if it happens the second time, the third time, and the fourth time, which includes everything that was mentioned in what you just mentioned a couple seconds ago, Ms. Alvarez.
Okay.
Including the education of the individual who's being removed, how long are they going to be removed for, and things of that nature, which was probably, I think, one of the main pieces that was missed out of what Strauss Esme sent out, as they kind of left it up for us to kind of fill that in. So I can tell you that what's in the documentation that I sent out to you is clearly delineates the information that NJSIA would like us to include, and is also in line with what most of the schools within the GMC conference, South Brunswick, North Brunswick, East Brunswick, and all the schools within the general area are going to be using as well, as we've all sat down as athletic directors and kind of discussed that we would try to include that model framework, within what we have within the policies. Some other specific things that we included in here in the first page, we did discuss what happens with unaccompanied minors, as we have seen through recent years that sometimes we have middle school student athletes or students who come and are unaccompanied, and that does create some problems. So we have included in there that we would like for them to be accompanied by an adult. If not, they won't be allowed. It does pose some issues, especially from a supervisory standpoint. Sometimes if they're running around and things like that while activities are going on. And at the end, the other couple of things that we kind of included in there kind of just discusses things such as what happens if one of our parents or one of our students get kicked out at an away game. What happens, or how will we handle the situation if it's someone from another school getting kicked out? And how are we communicating with their with the administration at their school? And then lastly, that we would like to send this out to all parents at the beginning of the year. It is a conversation I had with Dr. Higgins, and he said that at the beginning of the year, when we send documentation out through Genesis for parents, we will make sure to include this so that all of the parents in our district are aware of this policy, regardless of what school their student attends, as again, a lot of times they come as, or they are fans at some of our events.
Okay. Does anybody have questions on that? No. What are we doing now since in the meantime? What have we been doing?
Yeah. So in the meantime, I mean, if there's any issues, when it comes to any fans, students or anything like that, they are handled on a case-by-case basis. If it is a student that were to get kicked out, I do have conversations with Dr. Higgins or any of the vice principals, should we get into any issues where, they have to be suspended for a period of time from attending. We haven't really had to kick too many parents out. We've had maybe like about 2 incidences, which have actually included more parents from other schools. We always have a communication, always have a conversation with the other school, just in regards to who the parent was that got kicked out, if we know who it is, or at least give them the heads up. Most of the time, other schools send a supervisor or someone for crowd control anyway, so they are aware of the situation of what may have happened. And a lot of times we like to make sure that happens. That way you can kind of have control of your own, of your own fans. For example, tomorrow, I'll be going to Old Bridge for a game that we have for wrestling, just to make sure that I'm there. Should there be an issue, I can address it, and that way I know kind of what's going on. But we do always communicate with the other school if it's a fan, from their side. But at least this way, what the NJSIA wants is for it to be clearly delineated, clearly posted as to what the expectations are, and now have a set standard, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term, of what it is that we want and what those offenses are going to be, so that they don't happen, over and over again.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Does anybody else on the committee have any questions about this? Or are you comfortable moving it forward for first read?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Doctor,
Do we have?
can I just ask a quick question? So because this is my first time going through one of these policies with the committee, so there are some things that were in there that were removed and kind of clarified with more of the information that I send in. How does it work moving forward, Dr. Lehman? Does it get reviewed and then another draft kind of get presented before, or?
So you know how you gave us a highlighted version? So we will move forward with a clean version, and then after 2 reads, that second reading will be the adoption of the policy. Okay. Yep. And then this is just for the good of the group. This is a required policy, and it's in response to NJSIA requiring any district basically who engages in high school athletic sports to implement this as a core framework. And that's what we're doing. We're complying so we can have our athletics next year. The requirement is to have this in place for the summer.
Okay. So okay, we're February, March. So it should get if there's no objections, it should have to be approved in March at the March meeting. Okay. Ms. Shaler, am I saying that right? Is your microphone working now? I think it says you're muted.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I can't hear it through my laptop, but I'm hearing it through the phone, your voice, but it's, yeah.
I'm the only one speaking.
I have 2 devices on, so you're not hearing an echo, are you?
No.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll get started with policy 8500, the food services policy. Okay, so I took a look at the Strauss-Esme revision to the policy, and I noted some key changes that they're recommending, and they have to note that one of the big ones is that the breakfast program now must be eligible to students in a school that has 10% free and reduced. It's mandated. In the past, it's been if a school had 20% of its population is free and reduced. So that actually started last year before the Strauss-Esme revision even. And we did get notified that we had 2 schools in district, Mill Lake and Woodland, that had 10% or more. And it's based on the reimbursement claim for the October of the prior year. So this October decides these free and reduced numbers for if it's required for the next school year. And we do look like we will have more schools that will be mandated to participate in school breakfast. So
does that mean that all the children will have the option?
Big one. And the language is also, it's the new policy is longer. They really go into giving the definition of all the different categories for receiving free and reduced meals. There, it even, it starts on page 1 with the definitions. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So most of it is, like I said, the big piece was the requirement for a school breakfast program. Again, the definitions of students who qualify for free and reduced. And because that has expanded to, if a family is on Medicare, they automatically will receive free and reduced meals. Where in the past they had to fill out an application.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So do we currently offer any breakfast at the high school level?
Well, yes, that's Kate, that's a good question. We do have an a la carte breakfast program. We started that this school year. I met with the Student Action Committee, and it was something they thought they would be interested in trying. So it's just an a la carte program. We do it on Fridays.
Okay. So I guess my follow-up question, and this is something that I think we had brought up last week, I guess, when we were talking about the funding. I was curious with the way we determine free and reduced lunch at the high school level specifically, because for our students who come from Jamesburg, my understanding is that their calculation at the state level is to Jamesburg, but then there's the tuition agreement, which is, how they end up at Monroe High School. But do the free and reduced lunch applications, I guess, does that percentage count towards Monroe High School when we're looking at that 10% threshold, if that makes sense? I might not be.
Oh, sure. So yes, the students, well, actually, they're their own district, Jamesburg. If that,
Right.
I'm just trying to say it in simplistic terms. So they're their own district, but they're ninth graders. As soon as they come to the district, they're part of Monroe. So, so for instance, right now at the high school, we have a 15% level of free and reduced students at the high school.
Okay. So that's above that 10% threshold. And that includes the students then, I guess, that for the free and reduced lunch, because I know that's the policy we're discussing right now, for free
Sure.
and reduced lunch perspective of that percentage amount. Their applications are submitted to the high school because they're at the high school.
Yes.
So it would
But
be
a
fine.
student's status carries over from the prior year. So whatever their status was in June carries over until it's usually after the first 60 days. It's around October 16th, October 18th that they would have to reapply. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so. I just we were talking about in general with funding, but then when this came up, I wanted to just ensure, like, because I know there's a lot of things that sort of follow, we're eligible for certain things based on how much percentage we have of students that are eligible for free or reduced lunch.
Right. The numbers of free and reduced students are like a barometer for how much funding the district will get.
Which it really even, directly affects the funding formula itself. We saw in the calculation. So
Yes.
I guess at that was my question at that level. And then if we're offering it because it is above that 10% threshold, but I wasn't sure if that's required for K to 12. The breakfast component of.
Yes, it is. It's required you're right. It's required K-12 now.
So then we would need that daily at the high school as well because we have 15.
Moving forward.
Okay.
You see, it's based on October. So October 2024 determines it being mandated for 25-26.
So just to clarify for the public, as of September 2025, there'll be breakfast at the high school.
Well, we have to wait to see we have to wait till we get that form from the state.
But you did get it this October, correct?
It looks like it will be.
And this October, we didn't go over the 10%?
We're under the 20%. We're over 10% for the high school.
Right. So you said that we were over that last year, that we were at 15%, correct?
No, I meant we're at 15% right now.
Okay.
No, we weren't.
It was 20% prior to the new ruling.
The only two schools that were Mill Lake and Woodland last October.
Okay, so because we haven't adopted the policy, we don't have to implement the breakfast this school year.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there anything else in the policy you would like to highlight for the parents and public other than the change in percentages?
You just want to also confirm, Cindy, on page 15 of 21, where we have the options You must select the option below. We do allow the charging, you know, option 1, option 2.
Let me go to that page.
And I'm
It's a
sorry,
very
Sharon,
long policy.
Yeah.
Page 15 of 21.
Yeah.
page 15 of
Very
21?
bottom.
Yes.
15.
Oh, yes, option 2.
Yes, I know we do that, but I just wanted to say it aloud for the public. That's why.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so all students, if a student, yeah, we don't deny any student a meal if they don't have lunch money or breakfast money. If they're not on free and reduced, we would feed that child. And then we do have to collect the funds that are owed, obviously. So we send out letters from the POS system if a child owes money. We have phone calls, and now with Elliot Feldman, we put a little box, and it's been very effective, that pops up from Genesis, and it would show you if you have any balance, a positive balance or a negative balance on your child's lunch account.
So I notated that comment so I can, when we go to our first read.
Okay. This is option 2, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
it's option 2.
All right.
I
We
have
don't
it written
deny
down.
anyone a meal.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, and both you and Mr. Barandika
Oh, you're very
this
welcome.
evening.
Did
All
you
right.
want to go over anything else, or
Carmen, can we look at the
wellness?
8505? So
Which
yeah.
one?
8505.
8505? Yes.
Wellness policy.
Yes.
Mhm.
School nutrition, local wellness policy. Kay, you had wanted this one to come forward.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to? We can't hear you great. Like you're a little muted.
Oh,
No, I'm not sure why. I tried
Not
another
you. I'm
device
talking about
too.
Kate, Miss Ratner.
can
Oh.
you hear me better now?
I hear you a little bit better. Yeah.
Okay. I put my headphones in because
It's a little low.
my
Yeah.
boys are coming upstairs and I felt like it's probably better to have headphones in, but I'll try to just deal with that.
Yeah, we hear you better now.
Yes,
Okay.
I hear you well.
If you hear screaming, that's my kindergartner. Anyway, so this is a policy that came up at one of my legislative committee meetings for school boards. And so I had went to look at our policy, and I guess my question was if there are things, whether we need to modify what's currently there, or if we need to, I guess, look at what we're currently doing in district. I had looked at like on our board agendas to see if we've approve a wellness coordinator annually, because that was something that had come up, and I didn't see anything on our board agendas about a district wellness policy coordinator. It would make sense like who it would be, but I wasn't sure if that's something that we've done. And like this is, I looked, because I did the search on board docs. I don't like see it ever, so it's not like a recent thing. And then I guess the other question I had along those lines, and I think I actually spoke with you at back to school night, was just regarding the amount of additional items that students are able to have. I know it says that they're required to take certain things for their meal, and it says that the food service staff will place healthier items. But in regards to, I guess, the which I can't find where it is in the policy right now, but allowing I guess parents to set limits in regards to how much is being
Like
spent.
any purchases of a la carte snacks or anything like that.
Right. And I cannot
Okay.
find it in the policy right now. But the other part was the district wellness committee and then the wellness
Sure.
board.
Okay. So we, the district wellness policy coordinator, I presume that is me, and I do fill out something, and they're online, the wellness policy assessment tool annually.
Okay.
But I do meet with all the principals. So the principals are part of that too. We meet with the students, the principals through, and we do those assessments annually, but we meet with what's called youth advisory committee meetings with the students. in grades K to 5. And then in the middle school, we meet with the student liaison committee on a regular basis. And the high school level, we meet with the student action committee on a regular basis. So I really think we have a lot of input and great feedback and good comments with the students, a great rapport. We do various things in tastings. We get their ideas. They help us write the menu if something's feasible that they recommend and it meets the criteria for the National School Lunch Program or breakfast program. We do bring it in. I hope that answers. We could always have some parents, or more parents on these committees. We can reach out when we have our meetings through the principals. But we do some great things with the wellness committees. I just met over the past week with Applegarth, their committee, and Woodlands committee. We have National Nutrition Month is coming up in March, and we have a lot of things in store with through those committees. Those committees comprised of teachers, parents, some parents, principals, admin. The week of the 17th, we're doing a whole lot of things at Woodland this year. Even the Department of Agriculture is going to join us on that Thursday, where we celebrate some Jersey fresh produce. Because I think even though it's not that time of year, seasonality to get those good items like we can get in May, June, and September and October, we can get frozen vegetables that are Jersey fresh, and we also get some. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But besides the fun, it's an important, it's for the health of the kids. I think we do a lot of good things with that. But again, we can always get more parents involved.
Okay. Right. No, that wasn't my concern. I mean, I've been to a couple of the student
Sure.
meetings. It's fantastic. I like that, you get the feedback from the students, and they're the ones who are obviously eating the food.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about, whether or not, like, I guess from the board perspective, if we need to be appointing the policy coordinator, because it also mentions that, like, the board is supposed to get the an annual report in regards to it's on the bottom of page, or the top of page 9.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an assessment, and that the assessment is presented at a public board meeting, and then that it should be available on the district website. And so when we were looking at policies, I looked and saw, like, the last time this had been updated, this policy was in 2017.
Yes.
So I just wasn't sure if there were things that maybe are no longer required, that, we just needed to update our policy as a board, or if there are things in the policy that there's a lot of policies that maybe, we needed to do, that I wasn't able to find, even like from years and years ago, before all of us were there. So that's sort of where this came from.
Sure. I complete a wellness policy assessment tool, and it's on the district website, but it's under food service information, and I do one for each school.
Okay.
I pulled out a couple that's where it would be located, on the district website. Currently, that's where we keep them, and the public can read them, because you just go to food service information, and then you kind of scroll down, and you could find the different policies, the wellness policy, and then the wellness policy assessment tool by school. There's one for each school.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's definitely really helpful. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. And yeah. Okay. You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions? Other questions?
So Carmen, that wouldn't need to move forward. That was
No,
more of a
we were
conversation
just
between
having a
us.
discussion on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any
Just
other
breaking news.
questions? No? I would like to discuss the organizational chart next, because I feel like we've been trying to get this squared away for a few months now. And due to various different reasons, we haven't been able to have the discussion. So I know we had been discussing making some changes to the current chart. And along with it would come updating the policy as well. It's changing some of the language that's currently there. So going to click on the link that was provided. It takes us to the district website where it's located. So if the public wants to look at it later or is watching tonight, they can just follow. It's on our website. Does everybody have it up?
Okay, I think I'm going to say good night.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things we had been discussing was moving the Oprah secretary under the business
Custodian
administrator,
of records.
custodian of records under the business office.
Which has been moved.
So when I click on the link, let me see where I custodian. Okay. Board secretary and custodian of records. Okay, see it on the no. So when you click on the link, it's not there yet, but the document that we received.
You can show
says-
it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to see anything yet till it's approved.
Okay. And then what else did we discuss? Maybe removing some of the.
We did. We removed the verbiage. Remember that we had an attorney there? You asked to have that verbiage removed, which I agreed. Because we don't really have an in-house attorney, we pay a company.
Yeah. And also
So that's
the New Jersey State Board of Education.
That's correct. That has been removed as well.
Okay.
No, that's removed. Okay. It's on the draft that was attached.
It shouldn't be, because not the one I looked at. I literally looked at it before we came. I don't know, Adam, do you have it accessible? I'm looking through my book right now.
I'm on the right meeting.
Yeah, the link that I clicked on it in our executive attachment shows that it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
One
Okay,
second.
so I had clicked on the wrong link, but yeah, I do see it's still there.
Well, it's
And
in
then-
the one I have, it is not there.
Okay.
That was the
Well, I'm sure
line
we
with
could fix it before the meeting. So we're
Yeah.
taking that part out. And then
Yep.
we had talked about putting transportation, swapping, right? Facilities and transportation.
And we did that as well.
Okay.
Are you looking, I'm just hopeful, oh wait, I'm hopeful that,
I'm looking at the attachment on the agenda.
oh, I see New Jersey State Board of Commissioner of Education Executive. Oh, I apologize. That should have been removed. You're absolutely correct. That will be removed. Yes, and then it is swapped. So you should have, transportation is moved and swapped with the Director of Facilities and Operations. See it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other things that anybody wants to discuss about the organizational chart?
Staff developers that are under the district supervisors, is that like professional development staff members, or is that
Yes, and I mean, technically, and Adam could speak to that. Technically, our staff developers are part of the MTEA negotiations, so they are teachers on assignment. So, but they work directly, if this organizational chart is about who works with whom, they work directly under the district supervisors. Adam?
And with me.
And with you?
Yep.
Yes.
I
Under
do their
assistant.
evaluations.
okay?
But they're
Now,
part
I
of the
have a question.
MTEA staff.
I have a question about the new director position that was created. Wouldn't it make more sense to put that under Dr. Lehman?
Not
Because he
necessarily.
does a lot of curriculum related. No?
You mean school counseling?
it's
and
not-
Yes,
they
school
all-
counseling and student support services.
Right, but I also work directly with the principals who also work directly with him regarding that. And there are some areas in which, Avid is one of them, and some things I'm working on directly. And I felt very passionate about that, which allows me to stay linked also to the curriculum. I don't want to just be managerial in nature. I want to be, curriculum and programming as well. So that's why I felt that it was appropriate to leave him. And in the end, as we always say, they're all under me, but,
right.
I work directly, and Dr. Lehman and I don't work in isolation. We work together. So
Just really quick, would counselors fall under the director of school counseling?
no, they actually fall under the principals.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you want to be technical, they are building level based certificated staff. We talked about this, Adam and I. Although they collaborate and correspond just like the supervisors do, they work directly for the principals in the building. That's why we did not move. That's why we did not put it there.
I don't see where are they, Kate?
They're not there. They're part of the staff.
They're not
They're
there.
not, they're not even on the chart. I see.
But that,
Yeah,
that
they're
was sort of
instructional.
my point. Yeah.
They're instructional and support staff.
So in terms of, I always look at evaluations. In terms of evaluations, the principals do the evaluations and as well as the director, or if formally the supervisor. But they are because they're building based,
They work for the principals.
that they're under the teacher's piece so that we have them categorized with all the other instructional staff. And there's some similarities with child study team falls under that category. They have observations done by both the building as well as the pupil personnel services wing. So some of those.
But they are under a director of pupil personnel services. So I
No,
guess
they are not.
they are on the chart. That's I guess like why
Show
would
me.
those
Oh,
be-
child study team and related services. And I think that's because they're not, I apologize. That's because they're not always building based. So we have, for example, BCBAs, we have various different positions that are not necessarily building based, where the guidance counselors are building based.
we don't have any
School counselors work in a specific building.
we don't have any elementary counselors that split anymore.
No. We have, go back to child study team, we have primarily building-based teams with some district level shared staff, but like the BCBAs, child psychologists kind of float back and forth depending on caseloads.
OTPT.
OTPT is
They're
a
shared between
they're
buildings.
shared piece, yes. Sometimes they're building-based based on caseload, but overwhelmingly they're looked at it through a district lens.
Right. And we prefer them to be looked at that way because as we look at our needs, and as we look at replacements and as we look at, I think needs is the best way of saying it. They are not really building base because they go where they are needed and can be changed at any times. Whereas the guidance counselor, we would never just move. Well, let me rephrase. We have not to date just moved a counselor from middle school to high school. They are treated equally as you would treat a teacher.
Okay, and I have a question. Where are the nurses on the organizational chart? Are they under the student support services?
So the nurses are instructional and support staff as well, and they are also building based. Our nurses are building based.
Okay, so they report to the principals then?
That's correct. But just like our supervisor of history, for example, or a supervisor of math can oversee a teacher that's placed in the middle school, high school, elementary, the nurses will also work directly with Miss Ruella, which is Director of Pupil Personnel Services. But they are building based.
So the principals are doing their evaluations, is what you're saying?
Quite often, yes. That or Miss Ruella.
That's another, so they're both. Ms. Ruella will often do one as well as the building principals.
Okay.
And they have their own evaluation tool as well that's specific to managing the nursing office,
Correct.
managing interaction with students, setting up health plans and things like that.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Just to clarify really quick, for the director, I know like with school counseling, school counselors, who would be considered the student support services, I guess, in that additional part of that title? I'm assuming. So it's the director, the new position, I guess, that we had created.
So the student support services piece is anything taking you up to the classification IEP process. So that's MTSS, that's any of the mental health pieces that we have. And then INRS, once we cross into having an IEP or beginning that process, then it shifts over to Marietta's office where that manages that. That's also 504s. So the student support services is 504 side, as opposed to IEP is the pupil personnel services
So
side.
it's not additional staff members necessary, it's additional
It's
program.
oversight of the systems and organization and the processes on one side versus not side, but one lens versus another lens.
Right.
And equally, like the whole point of the MTSS process is to support students and get them the support they need without having to go through the IEP process.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay.
No?
I'll remove the
Okay.
New Jersey State Board of Education, Commissioner of Education Executive, County Superintendent, that'll be removed. The attorney was removed, Board Secretary and Custodial of Records. Once this is board approved at this second read, we could put that into effect as of March 1st. Can we do it as early as March 1st?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or do we have to wait for the March reading, policy-wise?
No, we have to have 2 reads, right? Or wait, this is
So-
different. It's not a policy.
No, it's not a policy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just
So
the
I'll just
policy
make it
that we need.
effective
one.
as of, I'll make it effective as of March 1st.
Sure.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Custodian of Records, Board Secretary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
real quick, because we already discussed the AI policy.
Yeah,
and
you were thinking, I was
curriculum.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so we could just do that really quickly. We had a longer discussion about it in curriculum, but we were just given like a framework to create this policy. We did discuss it at the last month's meeting or the last time policy met. I don't remember what month it was. And then administration in consultation with the board attorney have come back and they've created a very comprehensive document. So if the committee is ready to move it for first read, I was able to review it during curriculum and it looks pretty well done and comprehensive. So I'm comfortable moving it for a first read if the committee agrees with that. Yes? Okay. So we can move that along to the agenda.
You want to do AI also, since you also had that conversation?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean wait, we talked about AI. What was the second thing you said? I didn't hear you, Dr.
Oh, I
Chan.
apologize. So I was looking at the P5701 and P2365 because that was the predominance of the
Oh, the
conversation.
academic integrity.
Right.
Is that's not what we discussed in curriculum, is it?
Wasn't it related, Adam?
So
'Cause we decided to bring
it's-
that back to the administration.
right.
Right.
We
and
do
came
have
up
it for
with these
tonight, though.
changes. I think
Okay.
if we could get it done tonight, it makes sense because it kind of goes hand in hand with the acceptable
So this
use.
is a little bit
Yeah.
different. 5701 plagiarism.
Yep.
Okay.
It's being changed to academic integrity.
Integrity.
Okay. Let me.
What's that name?
5701.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Can I make a comment if I might?
Sure.
I read everything. I even ran it off. And I must tell you, this is a very difficult arrangement. I know that you did it because we had no other choice, obviously, because we just didn't know about the snow. I read the in terms of my recollection and specificity, I can't remember all this stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot. Maybe it's my age, but I just can't do it. And I remember certainly the AI. I agree with you. It's very comprehensive, and I totally think there's no need to go in. I think we should just adopt it. But insofar as any other things on that is very difficult. And
I don't know if you have your.
it's very difficult.
Maybe you don't have documents in front of you on board docs.
I had some of the documents in front of me.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. My computer is not saving, and all the paper I used to just run through all those documents, realizing that there's no way we're going to get through all those documents in an hour, It's just not going to happen. So we get loaded with all these different documents. I wish we could just prioritize it and say, okay, look, guys, here's what we can do within an hour. Reasonably, here's what we can cover within an hour. To just load us up with all this stuff, we're not going to cover it. I don't see we are. I don't see how it's possible.
How many?
Well, we're almost done. We got 1, 2. We may not be able to get to use of school facilities again because that's a little bit longer, but I think we can get through at least the alert because we did half last time and we're trying to finish the alert the other half this time.
Okay. All right.
So
my own commentary for whatever it's worth. I'm sorry.
whenever there's an alert, it gets a little intense, our agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so academic integrity, real quick. They're just changing the word, taking away plagiarism and replacing it with academic integrity. Basically, that's what's the recommendation from Strauss-Esme. It also says that the principal or designee can address a student who has previously violated the policy and may impose additional consequences to a multiple offender. We have options to select from. So that was option 1. Second option is indicates consequences for any violation of policy 5701 shall be addressed in accordance with the district's policy and regulation 5600, the code of conduct. Did we decide on what option we're going with?
So
on 5701?
Yep, the code of conduct one, the second one.
Okay.
That's we presented this to Dr. Higgins for some feedback, and it says any violation of this policy shall be addressed in accordance with policy and regulation 5600, which is the code of conduct. So, and that's consistent with the AI piece where we're looking at multiple sources of information to come up with a reasonable action. Sometimes it's redoing an assignment, sometimes there's a consequence. But each situation is evaluated and monitored that way.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Any questions on that?
And also the organizational chart is a policy. I just want to make sure you know this will be moved forward for a first read. I double checked.
Okay. From my understanding, it was the policies that we have to have an organizational chart, but just to confirm, you're saying that the actual chart itself is a policy as well?
Well, what I'm looking at, I'm just looking at the P110, and all I see underneath is the organizational chart itself. So
yeah, it just says see chart under district policies on the homepage. There's no like actual verbiage.
Okay, so I will confirm if it's needed to move forward, it will be, and if it's not needed, it will not be. How's that?
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
let's move on to student grievance, 5710. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see what the
I think it's just providing details. It's providing more details about the actual student grievance process. The guide provides written documentation supporting the grievance timelines to follow the grievance and timelines for a district official to respond.
Okay. And there's nothing to select options on this one? No.
I believe
well, we're removing a lot of language and replacing it with levels, first level, second level, third level, when a student has a grievance.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions on that? No? All right, we have 7 minutes left. Which ones do you think we can tackle in 7 minutes?
Is there a revised to the honoring pupil achievement? There's not. Okay. Because I see it on the agenda, but I just saw the original regulation on here.
We talked about that in curriculum.
I think that's what's going back to the administration.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're not doing that.
No.
And then I think, Carmen, we can probably do use of school facilities because I did go through it after we talked about it and after we had our meeting, and I didn't see any changes.
You did see them?
I did not.
Me neither.
I did not, because I think our concern was, and I think we do it, our concern was regarding having the ability to provide from the school to provide training and information. That's what caught my eye to the to the township. Well, in our case, it's the township. And the answer was we do that. So I read through it again and I didn't see anything because we did have a first read on it. And I thought we may have made changes. I discussed it with Adam and we didn't see any actual changes. Was there something that I'm missing?
I thought it was under the regulation. There was a question about the tiers. Ms.
The
Rauner, did you have a question about that?
7510, let me see.
Well, it wasn't necessarily so much about the tiers as much as it is the
The
fact
security.
the regulation itself requires that anyone using the building has a security guard. Where is it? I'm trying to find it exactly, but that it requires at least one security officer the entire time. This is on the bottom of
Yeah, but I think that was not, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the other tiers? I could be wrong. Let me look.
No, it's on the bottom
What page?
9 of the regulation. So it says uses must be properly supervised. It's number 3. And letter A is a minimum of 2 school custodians must be on duty the entire time a use occurs, including 1 hour before and 1 hour after, for which a fee will be charged, if applicable. And then B says a minimum of 1 security officer must be on duty during the entire time a use occurs, including 1/2 hour before and 1/2 hour after. And so the concern came that the regulation, I think it's the regulation also, this is where the tiers came into play, states that our tier 1 class 1 users will not be charged for those services, but it's mandating that those services are being provided.
And they're not. There is not always a security guard present. That is not.
So
that
we're
is
in
incorrect.
violation of the regulation as it currently stands. So
But we had this conversation with the attorney. Adam, do you recall? Remember, we had this conversation with the attorney about the way it was written, and there was a way. Let me just double check it.
Right, but there's nothing that's changed on the way it's written. That's where
What page are you on again?
page 9.
Thank you.
On the regulation, Dr. Chanley.
Yes, thank you. Page 9 of 13, amendment 1. Okay, so I just want to make sure use must be properly suited by number 2. And that is listed under use of school facility bound by law. Well, then we need to change that because we need to remove that.
We
Right,
need to
that
keep
would-
it consistent.
Right. If we're not requiring security and like actual staff members, then that would have to be revised. And it's just training of these people if that's what if that was what was discussed. But
My
Yeah, what has
recommendation
been-
would be
what has
to
been
discuss
discussed?
it with with Mr. Weiss.
But
So what happens is when it is an outside or non-tier 1 organization, yes, we always have a minimum 1 security guard, minimum 2 guidance counselors, minimum 2 school custodians, and they are charged. When it is a tier 1 group, we do not require security, and instead we have a system in place that was discussed when we met with the township. And we have the, I believe her term is superintendent. Ms. Lang, I believe that's her actual title. I think she's the superintendent of the rec department. She works in collaboration with our director of security regarding securing the school in which the activity is taking place. But a security guard is not necessarily there.
right, but then I think the other part that came in when we discussed this, and this was months ago, was the other class 1 users that are not under the township. So community scouting and related groups, or the Monroe Education Foundation's on there. Those people aren't necessarily going to be able to provide their own security. Like, I don't even know if, like, I guess it would have to be like the county, like the councils, if you would, because each troop leader isn't necessarily have the same type of a resource.
No, what we
that-
did, we
Perfect.
handled that though. Kate, we moved them to the high school where there is security.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we started working with, I started working with Director Selby to say when possible, and it has been working out. We've been now relocating because of course we don't want to charge them, absolutely, right? So we've been relocating them to the high school where there is security.
But it's still being required for them to have those things, or
No.
So
I
if we're
think,
not requiring, we should definitely remove the language. I think
agree.
that's what Mrs. Ratner's saying.
right. But then until
I
then,
agree completely.
right.
But before we do that, I think it would be wise if we checked with the board attorney on that one.
And I thought we did send that to him, if I'm not mistaken. This was a couple of months
I
ago.
think we were going to send it to him, but then we were going to have the discussion with the township. And then I think that's sort of where it was left.
And we waited quite a while to get our appointment.
Yes. Well, it got rescheduled a couple times.
Right. So why don't we do this? Why don't I pull this out? So I'm looking at page 9 of 13 of the regulation.
Yeah.
And ask him to word it in such a fashion that would be appropriate so that we are acknowledging that we have a system in place,
Yes.
but it is not the requirement of a minimum one security guard.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we want to, assure that there is still secure. These events are secure. But
100%, but it's done in a different manner other than
Yes.
Dilly. And all right, so I'm writing myself notes. I'll take care of this right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
Okay.
50, are we
What do we have
done? No,
left?
we 5111.
So just for a frame of reference, use of electronic communication devices, both of them, I'd like
Yeah.
to bring them back another month.
Okay. Is that that's not the new cell phone discussion that the governor's, is it?
It's not related. It's not that, but it is related to personal devices.
Okay.
And I think what we have here is going to be Monroe appropriate.
Okay.
Because we're not banning cell phones necessarily, but we do have, a preference, and we don't let them use them in the classroom necessarily,
Mhm.
because we have iPads at the high school and things like that. So we want them secured. So that there is we have some things here that we definitely can bring back, but the piece that we want to fine tune still on this is related to the code of conduct side of things. In here, it has penalties and things like that are defined at a board level, but it gives you the option to use your building-based code of conduct. And I think it's more appropriate at a elementary, middle, and high school level to address something like this, as opposed to having a blanket board policy that applies to a kindergartner and a 12th grader in the same lens. So we want to bring this back another month
Okay.
to have that second part of that policy taken care of.
And I think it would also be a good idea maybe to review the code of conduct at least once a year. I don't recall ever doing that since my time on the board, but at least to see if it's to go over it just to make sure it's matching our policies, because we did find a couple things that weren't.
Yep. So the elementaries have already done so. They're just
Okay.
waiting on me to organize it and bring it to you guys, which we will do. Our goal is to bring it this spring, because we weren't going to change the code of conduct in the middle of the school year, but we will, present it to you guys, share at least the elementary one, so we can have it in place for next year. And we do take a look at our code of conduct annually, but we certainly can bring them, the middle and high school ones, to you guys.
Okay.
The last one here is 5111.
Eligibility of
And-
resident and non-resident students.
Yep. So that's related to, there was ambiguity in terms of who's defined and who can pay tuition to bring their children if they're certificated versus non-certificated. It's pretty simple. We don't have anyone. We don't allow anyone to do that, whether they're certificated or non-certificated. So it wasn't actually an issue for us. But we want to make sure we, identify that. I think it's option number 1. Let me see if I have the flip pages here. Yeah, select option number 1. So children of all non-resident staff members, at this point, because of our enrollment,
Okay.
the building base, we don't allow staff to bring. At some point, we can revisit if we end up with magically having more space.
Okay.
And then the other pieces to fill in were a little bit later in the policy. And it's consistent with what we have existing. So
Okay.
who's allowed to attend if they're buying a house, selling a house, right? If you're leaving town and things. And we define it as if you're moving in within 8 weeks and you provide a deed of sale and all the correct parameters, you can pay tuition and come to school. And if you're moving out, if you move out after May 1st, you're moving out, you can stay for the rest of the school year if you're pre-K through 11, and it's February 1st if you're a senior.
Yeah, I recall having this discussion at a prior policy meeting. They must have brought this back out again. Maybe it was.
So this has come back again. You're right.
Yeah,
And
I think it's because it says we didn't define what a teaching staff member meant. That's why
Correct.
it was brought back again. But I do recall us talking about the tuition with kids moving in and kids moving out and leases and contracts for the purchase of a home. I do
Yeah, so
remember.
nothing's changed on that since it's been 8 weeks for years. It's been senior February 1st. So nothing changes there. The piece that does change is we used to not require and not charge tuition. We don't have a choice to do that now. Tuition is required
It has to be charged. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the change, and that's why it came the first time. Since then, that first part I talked to you about, it said certificated staff. Somebody brought back to the state, what does it mean, certificated
Yeah.
staff? And so they defined it. And again, it doesn't matter to us because we're not allowing our staff to bring their children and paying tuition. So.
Okay, that understood. Dr. Chanley, I don't know if you're talking, but we can't hear you. I see your mouth moving, but we can't hear you.
Oh, my apologies. And my
It's
mouth was
okay.
moving. Thank you. So I was going to say with your approval, we will move that forward for a first read because there was no change. And it used to be that if you had a contract, we allowed it, but now you have to be C of O'd, like physically living there, all right? So that hasn't changed. And my mouth was moving. You are correct. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the last thing was I like the idea. I do agree that, well, the code of conduct, why don't we couple that with the cell phone policy? It makes sense because they're all
Yes.
related and we can bring it to the March meeting.
Okay, sounds good to me. Anybody have any questions?
No,
or
I think we got
comments?
everything done. I think that's pretty impressive.
Almost everything, but yeah, it was pretty impressive. And we had 2 guest speakers, so it was great.
Really quick, which I think might be the regulation as well.
There's
But
no such thing as really quick with you, Kate.
the current, yeah, the policy 5516.
Uh-huh.
So now you're making me take longer by laughing.
I gotta mute myself. My dog's barking. Hold on.
In certain spots, it mentions school day, and doesn't mention school bus. Is that something that we discuss? Is that going to be discussed with the regulation if students are allowed to be utilizing their cell phones on the school bus? Because in certain places it says it's not allowed, in other places it doesn't say that. So I guess, are students currently allowed to be using their cell phones on school buses?
So we define school day as when they get on the bus, actually, frankly, when they get to the bus stop, to when they get off the bus stop and they get home. So, school day doesn't necessarily mean when they walk in the building and when they leave the building. So I think that's why you see that terminology. In terms of, are they allowed to use a cell phone on the bus? It's an electronic device. I think, it's impossible to monitor and check every book bag and walk around the bus and make sure everything stays where they stay put. I think it's a matter of, they're not allowed to record each other. They're not allowed to, take photos and, the standard things that would apply in a classroom and things. And we address it when it's an issue, right? So we're not searching book bags when they walk on. We're not searching book bags when they walk off the bus or into the school, which is why I think when this comes through, you'll see it's not like we're, putting a hard stop. And I don't know what the state's looking to do, whether it's, leave them at home or whatever. It's certainly a lot. Cell phones are $1,000, right? So it's an expensive device, and it's a lot of responsibility to carry that, right? And so if it gets stolen, it presents a whole nother set of issues. So, I think the opinion is it's not something you necessarily need. So keep it in your bag, but we also respect the fact that parents want to stay connected, especially students staying after school and things like that. So I think we have a balancing act here in trying to make sure the kids are safe, but also, when we have to address it, we address it. And I think that's the kind of balancing act we have with the devices.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night. Let's pray for
It's
Snow.
already about like a half inch out there.
Oh, I haven't even,
Yeah.
can't see.
I just had to let the dog out. So, okay. All right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.